on vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of July this year in 2022. You were probably shocked by the length of this video. It's a little bit of a shorter haul compared to my usual other monthly hauls. That is simply because a large bulk of what I purchased this month was purchased when I was in St. Louis with the youngest members of the VC. Be sure to check out the documentary that's going to be dropping on my channel very soon, where we showcase, what we all got record-wise, and also showcase the record stores we went to and just the general fun times that were had. But in this haul, we have some cool stuff to get through. We have the exclusive Greatest Kiss vinyl pressing, the latest Brown Acid compilation, new Jack White album, as well as some Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab titles. Yes, I know that's a hot topic right now, but got my hands on a few things. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. All right, guys, we're going to be kicking this month's vinyl haul off with, of course, my favorite band of all time, and that is Kiss. And lately, Kiss Online has been really dropping the ball on all kinds of vinyl pressings that are exclusive to the website. They'll usually do colored vinyl runs for like anniversaries of certain albums and such. But this time around, they really pulled out the big guns, and I was quite surprised to see this particular Kiss compilation get a vinyl pressing standalone, that is. And that is the compilation Greatest Kiss. Now, this came out back in 1996, and this compilation in particular, out of the pantheon of many Kiss compilations, this one has a little bit of a special place in my heart, because when I first became a Kiss Army soldier at the age of 2 years old, I remember I had this compilation on CD, and I would always bop around to it, and there's home movie footage of me, dancing along to what was my favorite song on that CD, which of course was Rock and Roll All Night. So to see this get a vinyl pressing is rather cool, because the track list, I would say, is solid in terms of gathering, of course, the obvious classics, as well as some interesting pieces as well, because, of course, you do have Detroit Rock City, you have Sure Know Something, Love Gun, Deuce, but then you get things such as, like, Going Blind, Two Sides of the Coin, which is an interesting pick, Flaming Youth, Plastercaster. So I would say this is a solid compromise in terms of classics as well as some deep cuts. Now, just to kind of dig into some minor Kiss minutia, there are different track lists out there for this compilation in terms of what came out in North America, what came out in Australia, so on and so forth. So this right here is a little bit of a composite type track list that brings together all the tracks that were featured on the various versions. Now, in terms of vinyl pressings, now this did get a vinyl press back in 2014 as part of the Kissteria box set, and it was one of the exclusive pieces. And when people were selling this like separate out of the box in the in the seller's market, this was going for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So it is cool to see it get a standalone press, and I can definitely tell that they used the artwork from the 2014 version as a sort of basis, because there literally is a copyright date of 2014 on there. So they made use of it, and it's great that they did a standalone press of it that is exclusive to KissOnline.com. And there's also a picture disc version as well, which goes for quite a lot of money these days. So right off the bat, in terms of the presentation, this is like printed on a sort of, I guess, almost like silvery type of cardstock. It really does shine very nicely, and there's a nice little bit of spot varnish in the Kiss logo. Gatefold, same deal. We have a then up-to-date picture of the band from 96, and then we have a cool live shot from 75 with the track list there. And this pressing comes pressed on what is described as sort of galaxy-colored vinyl, but it's more or less like a translucent purplish, like a translucent light purple with some black smoke. It's a very interesting colored vinyl configuration, and I also like what they did with the custom center label. It pretty much looks like the CD version that came out back in the day. So very happy to have this solid Kiss compilation in my vinyl collection, and it certainly fills a gap in terms of what Kiss compilations on vinyl are out there. So happy to have it. And then just to kind of dive a little bit deeper, we have some legal bootlegs that I want to show. And these are quite interesting ones as well. These are both ones that came out fairly recently. This one is called Greatest Hits Live. This brings together recordings from Fresno from 1979, Detroit from 1990, as well as Buenos Aires from 1994. The track list, as you can see on the back, it pretty much covers, the standards, but it's very interesting how it kind of flows. It just seems like a bunch of tracks just kind of, shuffle together. But what's notable about it is that I don't have these recordings in my collection on vinyl. I know that the Fresno show does circulate. I believe the Detroit show from 1990 appears on the Kissology Volume 2 DVD. And then the Buenos Aires broadcast I know has been circulating as well. So just an interesting little hodgepodge of recordings from 3 very different shows. And then there's also this oddity here, and I've seen this pop up every now and then. This is called the Archives of Kiss, Legendary Songs from the Early Days. Literally the most jumbled track list with God knows what the sources are, what shows they're from. I know that once I listen to it, I'll probably make some sense as to where they came from. I mean, I can tell you right now, things like Talk to Me and Is That You are probably from like Sydney, 1980 from the Australian tour. But then you get things like Tears Are Falling, Lick It Up. I mean, God knows where those songs are from show-wise. But needless to say, because they are my favorite band and I'm a little bit of a completist and I get my hands on anything, kind of saw the need to get these for myself. Alright guys, so if you remember from my last monthly haul, I got my hands on my very first ever test pressing, which was of Blackwater Holy Light's Veils of Winter album, and let's just say the bug has bit me entirely, and I got my hands on another Blackwater Holy Light test pressing, and that is of their latest album, Silent Motion. I actually remember seeing this available on Discogs at one point. This was shortly after the album had come out, and like I said in the past, like, test pressings have kind of caught my eye in recent months, but I just never really pulled the trigger on them too much. But recently, I joined a Blackwater Holy Light Facebook group. This was around the same time that I got the Veils of Winter test press, and I made a post saying that I was looking for the first album as well as this album. And sure enough, a member of the group reached out to me and offered me his copy of the test press, and I gladly accepted it for a rather decent price, and it is in my hands. And of course, just like the previous one that I showed last month, they are indeed limited and numbered out of 30 copies. This one here is copy number 20, and pretty much the same deal across the board. It is a basic black jacket with like a print of the album artwork, and the vinyl itself does come pressed on standard black vinyl, and I'll just showcase it off right here. The labels are indeed stamped. These are not exactly printed labels. They just take the basic, I guess, kind of stencil work of the artist name and album name and just stamp it in black. Same with the Riding Easy logo on the flip side. So this is yet another great collectible piece that I am so stoked to have in my collection of one of my favorite modern metal bands. Alright guys, so here is an album that I decided to dig into for myself for, I guess, an obvious reason, but it was also part of a little bit of a discovery of sorts. The album that I am talking about is the sole album by the band Grandparents. This album is called Sincerely Bagman. Grandparents were a sort of psych pop band based out of Portland that were together for a number of years. This album came out back in 2015, but they broke up shortly thereafter, which is pretty crazy. But the main reason why I wanted to check this album out for myself is because it features this member here, and that member is Sonny Ferris of Blackwater Holy Light, which is a band that obviously you just saw in this haul, and I mentioned them so many times in my videos. This was the band that she was in. She plays bass and she does sing some parts on this, and it's quite interesting to hear the contrast between the psych pop stuff, which is very melodic driven here, and then with Blackwater Holy Light, it's still very melodic, but of course it just has that sort of doom metal with a hint of shoegaze mixed in as well. So I mainly picked this album out just to see where Sonny got her start at. But this is such a fun listen. I literally put it on the ride home from work. And, if you're into, 60s infused psychedelic rock pop type stuff, you will like this album. So I managed to find a sealed copy on Discogs for $8. You can't go wrong with that price. Very excited to have this in the collection. And now we take a 13th dose of Brown Acid. Yes, this is Brown Acid, the 13th trip. This is the 13th volume that Riding Easy Records has been putting out of heavy rock from the underground come down. It's funny, this has been out for quite a while at this point as a film in this clip, and I've been waiting for copies to come in at the store. And I was planning on picking this up on a trip that I found myself on. I say found myself because by the time that this video goes up, I have already gone on the trip, and I was planning on picking it up there. But my good friend Mike over at Retro Spin Vinyl inquired about this, and he wanted a copy for myself, and I made him the deal that if he got a copy, I would get a copy too. That's more or less a reason. I shouldn't say a reason. It's more or less an excuse for me to get it sooner. But needless to say, I have the 12 other volumes along with a compilation of stuff from the first 10. So this was definitely essential on my radar as of lately. So very happy to have this. And interestingly enough, this is indeed a colored variant. And it's kind of interesting, this colored variant. This sort of comes on this sort of translucent colored vinyl. It kind of reminds me of like the old Mofi pressings, how they came on that sort of JVC kind of super vinyl type stuff. It kind of looks like that formulation. Obviously this is not the same kind of vinyl as that stuff, but it kind of reminds me of that. So I would say translucent black, interestingly enough. But nah, very happy to have this in my collection, and already a 14th volume is due to come out sometime soon, so I'm going to be on the lookout for that. And lately, I have been on a little bit of a Brian Wilson Beach Boys kick. It makes sense because it is summertime, and I decided to pick up this rather interesting piece of Brian Wilson-related vinyl in my collection. And this is a collection called Here Today, The Songs of Brian Wilson. So this right here is a tribute album, which features all kinds of artists. Darian, I'm going to say his last name incorrectly, so I do apologize. It's Darian Sahanaha. He is in Brian Wilson's backing band. He's responsible for putting together or piecing together the Smile bits and pieces and creating Smile to some extent. The Castells, Bobby V, Johnny Wells is on here. But in terms of songs, you have things such as Here Today, Don't Worry Baby, Aren't You Glad, God Only Knows, Good Vibrations, Caroline No, You Still Believe in Me. So there's a good bit of pet sounds on this album. But needless to say, this does celebrate one of America's most beloved 20th century composers. Now, I'm not going to say songwriter because I think that title is just a bit sacrilege when it comes to Brian Wilson, because he really was, I should say, is a true musician in every sense when it comes to arranging and tonality and chord structures and arrangements. Like, this guy is just phenomenal. But we do have some liner notes for each of the tracks featured. And here's a picture of the man himself with the fire helmet, probably during the fire sessions for Smile. And this pressing comes pressed on white vinyl. So a little bit of an interesting Brian Wilson related piece to have, but like I said, it does celebrate one of America's most beloved 20th century composers. All right, guys, I have a bit of a stack here of various records that I've accumulated throughout the past week since I have returned from the youngest members of the VC trip to St. Louis this past week. Keep your eyes peeled for the documentary. You are not going to want to miss it. And you would think that after what I had bought in St. Louis that I would just put a pause on things and just take a breather, but not exactly the case. So here we have the newest album from Jack White. This is Entering Heaven Alive. He had dropped an album 4 months ago with Fear of the Dawn, which I absolutely loved. It was his heaviest album. And this one is a little bit more rootsy, a bit more stripped back and acoustic, very much his singer-songwriter album. But I do gotta say, between Fear of the Dawn and this record, you very much get a full scope of what Jack's abilities are as one of the leading figures of the, of the rock scene in the 21st century. And this album is just absolutely beautiful, strong in melodies and chord structures. It was a pleasant listen from start to finish, and I am so stoked to see Jack roll out another record so quickly. I don't think we'll ever get anything like this again, unless he proves himself in the future, but I'm very excited for this. Out of the various vinyl pressings out there, I got my hands on the indie variant. I know that there is a... I think there's a Third Man Store colored exclusive, which I might get that at some point later. Vinyl Me Please did a great, beautiful colored press, which I missed out on, unfortunately. And I think Barnes & Noble has an exclusive with a slip mat. So there's some variants out there. Here is the printed inner sleeve that the record was housed in. And here is an insert which has all the lyrics and credits. Has like a nice bit of spot varnish matte type finish to it. Nice bit of design there. And I will showcase the vinyl. Now this is dubbed the Detroit Denim colored pressing, which is exclusive to the mom and pop stores. So it's kind of like clear vinyl with bits of blue smoke kind of mixed in, which is very nice. Kind of almost reminds me of the indie variant of Fear of the Dawn. So awesome new album from Jack. If you have not heard it, definitely check it out for yourself. This is an amazing record. Lately, I have been on a bit of a Blue Cheer kick. I picked up their first album, I think a couple months back, and I stumbled across this old Record Store Day pressing from, I want to say this was back from 2018. And that is the 67 demos, and literally this release just comprises of 3 tracks that were recorded as demos from 1967. You have A Second Time Around, Dr. Please, and of course their cover of Summertime Blues, which is absolutely phenomenal. And inside we have a rather cool poster that opens up, and you have the guys there. One of the earliest classic examples of a power trio indeed. And then here is the vinyl, which does indeed come on blue vinyl. Very nice. Band logo on this side. Good stuff. Moving onward, we get into some Beatlesy territory, solo Beatles, I should say. And here we have John and Yoko and the Plastic Ono Band, sometime in New York City, double album. This is honestly one that I am not too familiar with. A couple of tracks appear here and there that I have recognized and have heard, but I've never listened to this album from start to finish. And I figured I would round up the Lennon collection slowly but surely with this album. And there you see John and Yoko with the Plastic Ono Band with various photos. And I do like the design of the center label, which has like John morphing into Yoko around the center label, if you can catch that. That is a cool bit of design there. So very happy to have this other Lennon record in my collection. And rumor has it there's supposed to be like an anniversary version of this album come out. So perhaps it's good timing that I listen to the original mix, and if I like it enough, I'll look into the anniversary version whenever it is supposed to come out, or if it's due to come out. We shall see. Keeping it in Beatles vein, we have a legal bootleg type release here. This is 1958 to 1962. I guess you could call this the unofficial precursor to the Red compilation. But this features various tracks just from their early days, back from when they were the Quarrymen, Silver Beatles, their days in Hamburg, and early, Abbey Road. So on this, we have all kinds of different tracks. So we have studio outtakes from Abbey Road, such as How Do You Do It and Please Please Me. You have Love Me Do with Andy White, and as well as the single version with Ringo Starr. So some of it is a little bit familiar. In Spite of All the Danger, which is a Quarrymen track, I believe that was on the anthologies. Actually, now come to think of it, I think a lot of these tracks can be found on the Anthology 1 album. But this is kind of one of those cases where recordings are just put up for grabs and anyone can license them and put them out. And, a label had a crack at putting, out something. But, as an early Beatles piece, it does sum up the early years quite nicely before they got signed to EMI and whatnot. And just for the sake of showcasing everything, it does come pressed on red vinyl, which is pretty cool. And moving onward, we kind of shift entirely. We go into Detroit Motor City Madman territory. Yes, I am talking about Mr. Ted Nugent, Free For All. This is the second album. This is a gap that I've been wanting to fill in my collection. I absolutely dig this album a lot. On this record, you have, of course, Dog Eat Dog, the title track, Hammer Down, Writing on the Wall, Street Rats. all good stuff. Meatloaf appears on vocals on several tracks. Derek St. Holmes, of course, is on here. Just classic early Ted. This is a music on vinyl pressing that has come out fairly recently. It is limited to 1,000 copies. As you can see here, this is copy number 575. Gatefold jacket, very nice, almost like liquid laminate type of jacket. It's very, very shiny, very glistening, I should say. And this comes pressed on blue vinyl, classic orange Epic label there, which is very cool. And now we have some records from the label that everyone is talking about, and that is Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. Word's gone out, they're using digital sources, and everyone's doing videos just saying what they have to say about the matter, including myself. I put up one just to kind of sum it up. Basically, you know, to my ears at least, it doesn't matter how it's done. What matters is how it sounds, but for God's sakes, change the price point. But needless to say, I decided to pick up a couple of Mofi releases just to see, you know, just to hear for myself, because obviously I do have Mofi pressings already in my collection. Standard ones, silver label, a couple of the one-steps that have come out in recent years. But I figured, let me dig more into it, and I can appreciate these digital records knowing that they are very much digital records. However, fresh transfers from the tapes, so there is still some analog involved, but needless to say. So I picked up Electric Light Orchestra's El Dorado. My friend Marikan, one of the many friends that I went on the trip with to St. Louis, she wanted to purchase this off of me from the store that I work at. So I was kind of debating if I should get it. And then my coworker John said, you would love this album. It's basically 70s Beatles. And I don't own any Electric Light Orchestra. I do enjoy their work, but I just never delved into it. So I decided to pick this up for myself as well. And this pressing is also limited as well. They number all their stuff. This is copy number 6,346. Nice tip-on jacket, gatefold sleeve here. And what's cool with this pressing, and I think, at least I think this is kind of a new standard for Mofi in terms of their more recent releases, is that this comes pressed on their own super vinyl formulation. I don't know if you can really catch it on camera, but it is like a translucent type of vinyl, very much like how, you know, the early Mofis in the 70s were. You can kind of make that out. It's horrible in this angle, but believe me, it is translucent, and if you have this pressing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So very excited to dig into this album for the first time ever and to hear it on this style pressing. And that's the thing too, like when it comes to like audiophile labels like Mofi and Analog Productions, you know, sure, while, you know, it's so easy to be biased when it comes to bands that you love, when you are becoming an audiophile, you can appreciate sound regardless of who the artist is. And that's exactly what I'm trying to set out to do with all these various Mofi releases that I'm checking out for myself blindly, such as this one, as well as The Pretenders. This is their self-titled debut record. This is an album that I've just been wanting to get into for some time. Mofi did a repressing of this. This came out back in 2014, disappeared for a while, and I think a lot of Mofi stuff in general is awaiting repress. So this is one that was recently redone, and I managed to get my hands on it. And funny enough, repressed, and yet it is still numbered. I don't know if they're raising the numbers a little bit, but the one track that I know off the top of my head is Tattooed Love Boys, because that appears on Guitar Hero 2. So very cool to get this in my collection, and just for the sake of showcasing, take it out. Comes on standard black vinyl with the standard Mofi custom center label there. So very happy to have these two cool pieces of Mofi vinyl in my collection. And no, I'm not one of those guys that feels so cheated that's going to get rid of their Mofis. You know, ultimately I can listen to it a bit more analytically now, given what we all know. But in all honesty, you know, for whatever else I could, you know, get my hands on from Mofi, I'm going to check it out just to hear it for myself, because I like good sound, but I'm just curious to see just how this whole DSD onto vinyl thing works. I mean, yes, I've heard it before, obviously, but just to kind of dig deeper a little bit. And, you know, who's to say, maybe next month I'll get my hands on more Mofi stuff, but otherwise, you know, cashing in on the controversy, picking up some Mofis for myself. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of July this year in 2022. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.